Hello, how you doing? Thanks for coming back. Let's talk about the weekend. I took this week's photo when my wife and I went for a long weekend to La Rioja. We visited villages up in the mountains. We didn't go to the vineyards or the winemakers. It was absolutely amazing. We chilled out so much. It was so relaxing. We came back home on the Sunday evening, so relaxed, so chilled out that we didn't really care that the next day was Monday and the start of the working week. But did you know that the weekend is a relatively modern invention? It wasn't until the mid-19th century in Britain, specifically Manchester, that some workers began to have Saturday afternoons off. They still work Saturday mornings. Of course, Sunday was a free day, but because you had to go to the church and you had to worship, you had to be a good person. It wasn't until the 20th century that having 2 days off, both Saturday and Sunday, became a normal thing. Henry Ford, for example, began to give his workers Saturday and Sunday because he thought that a rested worker was a more productive worker. Nowadays, all around the world, most countries have some kind of weekend, some kind of 2-day break and a 5-day work week. So, what are you going to do this weekend? I hope to go to the beach if the weather's good. I'm going to go to a basketball match on Sunday midday. I'd like to read a book that I really want to finish. I've got to do some shopping and cleaning. There's a film on at the cinema that I'd like to go to. And I want to get a few things done that I haven't been able to do during the week. But in general, what I really want to do is chill out. Okay, I'm going to get on with my things now so that I can have a weekend free of work. Have a great weekend. Bye.
We all enjoy the weekend. It means that we can dedicate 2 days to ourselves, our family and friends, and to getting things done that can't get done during the rest of the week. But have you ever wondered when and why it was invented? The weekend is a modern idea. For most of history, people worked almost every day with very little time to rest. Learning how the weekend appeared helps us understand changes in society, religion, and economics, and why 2 days off are now so important. During the Industrial Revolution, life for most workers was very hard. People worked 6 days a week, often 12 to 14 hours a day. Sunday was mainly for religious duties, not leisure. Factory owners demanded long hours, while workers became exhausted. Trade unions began to demand shorter working days, but many business owners feared that reducing hours would hurt profits, and religious leaders wanted to keep Sunday purely for worship. Small experiments in shorter hours started to appear, however, showing the idea had potential. By the 1840s, some factories in Manchester and Salford gave workers Saturday afternoons off, the Saturday half-holiday. This helped reduce absenteeism caused by St. Monday, when workers often stayed home on Mondays after drinking heavily on Sundays. The half-holiday gave people time to relax, visit parks or music halls, and play or watch football. Clubs such as Manchester United and Manchester City benefited. Manchester's example showed that giving workers some leisure time improved morale and efficiency, and the idea soon spread across Britain and became a foundation for the modern weekend. In 1908, a factory in New England, USA, allowed Jewish workers to take Saturday off for religious reasons, while Sunday remained a day of rest. In 1926, Henry Ford, founder of the Ford Motor Company, introduced a 5-day work week, closing factories on both Saturday and Sunday. He believed rested workers were more productive and would spend more money on goods like cars. By the 1930s, the 2-day weekend became common in American industry. Politicians welcomed it for social stability, and trade unions celebrated it as a victory for workers' rights. Initially worried business owners soon saw productivity rise. At Ford, output per worker increased by about 15%. The creation of the weekend not only changed business and working practices, it altered society as a whole. Between 1920 and 1940, productivity in American manufacturing rose by around 40%, while working hours fell. Employment increased as more people were needed to cover shifts. At the same time, leisure industries grew: cinemas, sports clubs, seaside resorts, and package holidays. By the 1950s, weekend leisure spending made up almost a third of U.S. consumer expenses. Governments realized that rest days could, in fact, stimulate the economy. While religious groups worried Sundays would be used for entertainment rather than prayer, workers' associations began to campaign for paid holidays too, arguing that rest was a right, not a luxury. By the mid-20th century, the two-day weekend had spread to Britain and most Western countries. In Muslim-majority nations, and also in Israel, the weekend became Friday-Saturday. The implementation of the 5-day work week came to Korea in 1952 and continued to spread through Asia during the second half of the 20th century. Today, almost every country has some version of the weekend, though the exact days may differ. Global trade and tourism adapted, and work-life balance is now nearly universal. The general consensus is that the weekend protects health, family life, and happiness. It gives people time to rest, enjoy hobbies, and spend time with friends or relatives. It also supports the economy through leisure and tourism. Some countries are now experimenting with 4-day work weeks. The debates are familiar. Some worry about lower productivity, while others hope for a happier, more creative society. The weekend reminds us that progress is not only about working more, but also about knowing when to stop and enjoy life. Chat about these questions and write down your opinions and ideas. 1. How do you usually spend your weekends? Are 2 days enough to do everything you want to do? 2. How would your work and private life change if you had a 4-day work week? 3. How do weekends help people's health, family, or social life? Do weekends create any problems? 4. Can you think of any jobs where a weekend is impossible? How do people manage?